Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Alderwoman Maria Hadden. It's just a little before 2 p.m. on Friday, June 18th. This is just a quick video to share some updates with folks about what happened in the Public Safety Committee this morning. So, much anticipated, we were finally going to get to take a vote on the Empowering Communities for Public Safety Ordinance. If you haven't been following, the Empowering Communities for Public Safety Ordinance, also known as ECPS, is an ordinance that has been years in the making. People from the GAPA Alliance and the CPAC Alliance, dozens of older people, thousands of community members, and more than 100 organizations have spent years putting together a strong civilian police oversight ordinance so that Chicago can move forward towards real reform, so that we can be safer, so that we can have community control over policing and public safety in our city. I supported both ordinances, GAPA and CPAC, previously, and through a lot of hard work, specifically because the mayor and her administration put so much resistance, right, against these community efforts. These two groups came together with the ECPS ordinance. So for months, I've been trying to get a hearing on this and then a vote in the Committee on Public Safety, which is chaired by Alderman Chris Taliaferro. The mayor had been promising an ordinance for civilian oversight, and she introduced it last month. So today, the noticed agenda was supposed to have a vote on ECPS and also a vote on the mayor's ordinance. Mayor pulled her ordinance, wanted it held in committee and not taken for a vote today, ostensibly because no one likes it and she didn't have the votes. ECPS, though, was ready. So Alderman Osterman and Alderman Sawyer, who are on the committee and both chief co-sponsors of this legislation, were there to introduce a substitute with some small changes to ECPS. One of the notable things was removing the piece calling for a community referendum that would be put forth as a separate piece. Now, I'll say I'm supportive of the referendum. A few aldermen had some lingering concerns about it. So in order to get the votes, in order to pass this in committee, the coalition agreed to separate it out to a separate ordinance. So in order for the committee to be able to vote on that today, the substitute ordinance needed to be accepted. Now, there was clearly some kind of coordinated effort by folks who don't want to see ECPS pass to keep the substitute from being introduced. So when Alderman Osterman went to motion to introduce it, Alderman Lopez seconded, right, to support this motion, right, to support it. But Alderman Sposato then moved to lay the motion on the table. So if you were watching in committee, or if you watch the video afterwards, laying the motion on the table, it's considered a primary motion. When somebody throws that out, that means we have to actually consider that first. And what that did was say, hey, I want to take away that other committee member's ability to actually introduce the substitute. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of points of clarification put forth by myself and other colleagues, because interestingly enough, Chairman Taliaferro didn't seem to have a standard practice of how he recognized people. So Alderman Lopez's second of Alderman Osterman's motion was ignored. Alderman Sposato ended up being recognized, though he was not the first to speak or raise his hand. So he was given deference so that his primary motion to lay the motion on the table could be heard first and taken for a vote. Also notable is that these primary motions, they effectively end debate on an item, right? So when you're watching the committee meeting video, that's a little play-by-play and some definitions of what this means and why that matters. Now, that means votes were then taken, and the chairman did them by roll call. Votes were taken to see who supported laying the motion on the table, which means they don't want this substitute introduced, and then who did not support it. A couple people who it was pretty split. But in the end, I'll say that the motion to lay the previous motion on the table passed, which meant that the substitute could not be introduced. Then we were left with Alderman Osterman and other supporters on the committee looking then to recess the meeting until 1 p.m. on Monday so that people's concerns could be met. They could have time to look at the substitute, and they could reconvene on Monday so that the substitute could be introduced and voted on. This was, again, something that came up to be very controversial, came to a roll call vote. Now, I will note that any chairman has the authority to recess their committee and reconvene it at a different time of their own volition. They don't need a vote. Chairman can do this. Chairman Taliaferro agreed to find a time, but did not seem very supportive of this. At multiple times during the committee hearing, he admonished supporters of ECPS and made it clear that, he didn't think this should move forward, and he had told them certain things, and clearly used his role as chairman to favor certain people's motions and actions and voices over others. The recess motion failed as well, which means that we couldn't reconvene on Monday. And so right at the kind of near the end of the meeting, there was a lot of debate then on whether the item would be voted on or not. The sponsors and the supporters of the ordinance asked for it to be held. They didn't want to take it for a vote today because they felt in its current form it might not get the votes it needed to pass, and they want to be able to introduce their substitute. And so, since the mayor asked for her ordinance to be held, and Alderman Sawyer and Osterman, left with no other recourse, asked for their ordinance to be held. And the only other item of business had been the confirmation of new fire commissioner, Annette Nance Holt. The meeting was adjourned. So there's a lot more detail, a lot more drama in there. I encourage you guys to watch the video. But all that to say that parliamentary procedures being used to thwart democracy, it's wrong. We have a 50-person city council. We've got a legislative body. We're supposed to be your representatives. I'd encourage folks to read the Chicago Justice Project's recent report on the performance of the Public Safety Committee over the last 20 years and how it's basically done nothing. I'll share the links in the comments here. We need your help as residents to continue to fight. I really appreciate everyone who's been organizing around the Empowering Communities for Public Safety Ordinance. Thank you to everyone who's been reaching out to your alderperson, getting their support, informing your communities. We're going to continue to build that support. I'm going to continue to fight for this ordinance and continue to explain things as they happen, and also do my best to call out people abusing power, misusing rules, and twisting process, right? Twisting process in order to serve their own agendas. We all have a voice, and our voice is our vote. Our voice is our vote. We're here as your representatives. We are allowed to vote and debate. But when people in power, whether it be chairman or the administration or whoever, when people in power take our democratic process, as flawed as it may be sometimes, and they twist it and they contort it and they break rules in order to serve their own agendas and prevent real democracy from happening, they're undermining our entire system. That can't stand. So just wanted to share that update, wanted to let you guys know what happened in committee. I think it was an embarrassment to the city of Chicago. I know we can do better. This isn't just about supporting ECPS. It's about our process. It's about what we stand for. It's also about what you elected us to do. So I hope everyone has a good Friday. Keep the faith. If you're out there organizing for ECPS, know that we're going to move this forward. It's going to happen. And I know that I personally am very angry and disappointed today that yet another maneuver was put forth to keep the people from getting a voice, to keep us from being able to take a vote. And we'll see what we can do before City Council this coming Wednesday. Thank you all.
You share